Okay, so I have drawn out a little sheep, which is just like a fluffy cloud with a head and two ears on a hill, and then a star, which I have done the points at 12, 3, 6 and 9, and then I've done other points in between those. So it gives a nice sort of North Star shape. This is an indigo paper cotton pad, and I've taped around so that I'm going to get that nice edge. So what I would do is pop a link on the video to take you through to the intro if you need to see the intro to the challenge. But this is day 1 and we're going up to day 24 in December. Today I'm going to show you a bit of a wet in wet wash, a little bit how to create snow or stars, and a little bit on dry. So I'm going to give you little tips every day. So first of all, what I'm doing is I'm wetting the paper with a squirrel brush. So this is a squirrel mop brush. I will talk you through the colours as I go. You can just about see them in here. I'm going to mainly use a round number 6 because this is a small bit of paper. We need it to stay fairly small. Where it's shiny, it's wet. Where it's dull, it's dry. So what I wanted to do is to make sure that that paint that I put on runs in the wet but doesn't run into the dry. So at the minute I'm coming around with my round number 6 and I'm just wetting round the edge of the star because I couldn't do that with my big brush. And that's going to mean that the star stays dry. It will also mean that the sheep stays dry because I want the sheep to be glowing. And I'm coming down to the line of the land. So if you are unsure whether your paper is wet enough, you need to get down to eye level and look across the paper. And that will show you how wet, or where it is wet and where you've missed. If it's dull, it's dry. If it's wet, it's ready to go. So I'm going to load my brush up with water and I'm going to come into, this is an intense blue, it's a phthalo blue pigment, and I'm going to bring that into a well, and then I'm going to touch in to a little bit of rose. If you haven't got rose, just use something that's red. And this is just going to make that pigment very slightly darker. I'm going to come in and just drop in. So I'm using a circular motion. It's going to blend nicely into the sky. This is like a handmade paper. It's nice and thick and it's got lovely deckled edges. And it's a whole different texture to work with. I've never worked with anything like this before, so it's quite interesting, but it will make a lovely Advent type calendar that I can keep for myself or I can give as a gift. It's also nice really as well because you're going to have a journey of discovery all in one place, which is really nice as well. So I'm just coming around the star. Each of these activities are going to be really simple, so it's only going to teach you a couple of things each time. But all those couple of things build up, and then you start to get experience and you think, oh, I know what to do with this situation. I just need a little bit more. I'm going to come down to the hill. Around the fluffy sheep, or just around the top of the fluffy sheep, around the ears. I've even managed to preserve those. You can see the paint running into where it's wet. And what I'm going to do is just dip into this rose and take some of that in. So this is called blending on the paper. This gives much more vibrancy than blending in the palette. I quite like blending on the paper. You'll see me do lots of it. And then that's just giving it a little bit more tone. It also makes it look a little bit more darker in places. We want this to be an evening sky with that star. This paper's staying lovely and wet. And then what I've got now is just normal table salt. I'm going to take a little bit into my hand and sprinkle it on. The table salt is going to suck up some of the paint and it's going to create it can either be a star effect or a snow effect. So I'm just sprinkling it very lightly over this sky. And you'll see it start to do its thing. Now you've got to let this dry naturally so that the salt pulls the paint out. So I will come back to you in a couple of minutes. Okay, so that's nicely dry. So I'm going to come on with a damp brush. I've just dipped it into water and I actually want to extend the star through. So what I'm doing is agitating the surface of the paint and it's just starting to lift a little bit. I don't want to lift a lot, but I just want it to have a bit more of a softness so that it's not so sharp. So it's glowing through. And I'm just going to do those 4 points so that you've got a really nice glow there. Okay, so if I take a little bit of water on, I'm still with that round number 6, onto the snow. I'm just going to pop in a little bit of soft shadow. So I'm going to use some of that blue, pop it under the sheep, which is laying down, and just a little bit. So there's a hint of white left, but because it's evening and we're reflecting the colour of the sky, we need to reflect those colours. The same applies to the sheep. So if I take on a little bit of blue, this is on to dry, and I'm doing like a fluffy motion so that I'm getting a little bit of fluffiness there. And I'm just bringing a little bit of that blue in an arch. It's like a backwards C, but not at the top. And then just with a damp brush, I'm just going to soften that in at the top. So the sheep has now got a bit of shadow and a bit of a glow. If I dip into a little bit of neat blue, and there's hardly any water on my brush, and just bring that underneath the sheep, you can see that it's just grounding the sheep and giving a really nice shadow. Okay, so now I need to make sure my brush is really, really clean, because I'm going to come into this tiny bit of cadmium yellow. So any yellow will do. You could even use a little bit of gold if you wanted gold in there. And I'm going to paint the points of the star. So this is on to dry. I'm painting those points, but not the centre. I'm then going to rinse my brush. It is damp, it's not soaking wet. I've taken a little bit of water off on some kitchen towel. And I want this to get lighter in the middle. So I just rinse my brush again, dab a little bit off. So I'm just trying to keep it damp in the middle so that it softens in, but I don't want to lose the white of the paper totally. So you've basically got a glow from the middle that's a lot lighter, and then it gets darker. And then again with a damp brush dabbed onto kitchen towel, if I just run that yellow that's already on there a little bit in, it blends nicely to give a little bit of a ray into the sky. Then I want something black or very, very dark. So I'm going to use a little bit of sepia, which I've got on a separate palette over here, but I'll show you what the colour is in a second. And I need this to be nice and thick, so I'm using it neat. You can see the colour here. And I want to come in and paint the face. So we've got a dark face of the sheep and the ears. Now I'm struggling with the size of this, so I'm going to swap down. It's very rare that I swap down brushes. I prefer to use a bigger brush, but I've swapped down to a detailer, which is a number 2. I like to try and challenge myself to use the same brush. I'm going to pop. So that's the ears and the face there. And I can also take a tiny little bit just on that bottom edge of the sheep to just add an extra little bit of shadow. So there we are, it's all finished. I've taken the tape off. What I would say to you, on the basis of it's just lifted some little bits of this up, is I would use a very, very low tack tape, or I would actually draw the square in and just meet up to the edge of that. So going forward, I don't think I'll use the tape on here because it has lifted some little bits. It's obviously a beautiful paper that doesn't want to have the tape on it, and it's a bit more delicate than the paper that I'm normally used to. But I'm loving the effect already. So this is day 1, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 2.